Hey, everybody, welcome to the Wisdom Circle Manifesto Women of Legacy. We are gearing up to the day of our actual summit and roundtable. And I think we're in our last maybe 4 or 5 interviews. I have an amazing woman that facilitates amazing events and circles across the world and in different countries in her community. She's always serving and she's holding space for her clients and her coaching clients. And she really makes space open. And she believes in a concept that I think we all should really tap into more. And I think we do to some extent, but something a little bit more deeper happens when you have someone that's really saying, like, nope, it's time for you to become vulnerable. And that's what Veronica does. I want to say your last name, and I should have checked with this before. Kulinis?
Kulinis. Yeah.
Kulinis. Oh, I got it right, guys. Yes. So Veronica Kulinis, she is vulnerable as fuck. And this is what she does. That's what she presents and she provides and she represents in all walks of life and everything that she does. I'm so excited to have her as one of the women that are sitting at the round tables. She's bringing her authentic self and her story, as well as her experiences in the coaching and mentorship world, and how we can really learn from that and see how it shows up, and learns about her many stories for her different clients and her different experiences, and how she engaged with it and how she handled it as a coach and a mentor. I think that's really exciting to see her experiences with those fields and what really we can adapt into our own practice possibly, or maybe learn some things about different ways of approaching or holding space. So I'm really excited. Like I said, Veronica is on table 2, I believe. Table 2, am I right?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah, table 2. So she is going to be sitting with the diversity of women as the whole summit and the roundtable has. And it's really exciting to see the flavor and everything that she brings. So I am rambling. My 2 minutes is up, Veronica. Do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
So my name is Veronica, and I am a empowerment coach and a facilitator who leads transformational experiences that encourage vulnerability, connection, and communication in a brave space. I don't like saying safe space. I like saying brave space because, I think I know I want to live in a world where we are constantly pushing the envelope and creating spaces where we can actually be more courageous, right? Courageous in a safe space, and create and cultivate our own safety within us. So, I'm the founder of Vulnerable AF, which is a movement and a workshop series and my coaching program that, really empowers paradigm shifting leaders to be vulnerable in their relationships, to be vulnerable in their leadership, in their work. And, I really love um, diving into subconscious patterns and blocks and, really getting to the root of what stops you from being expressive, what stops you from saying the deeper thing, what stops you from listening to yourself and listening to your intuition. So I have coached many clients around self-expression, vulnerability, and courage. And so I'm excited to be here and talk about this topic of diversity, coaching, and vulnerability and leadership, and really what it takes to um, be a woman of color, to be a woman who is a coach, an entrepreneur, or if you're maybe you're diving into the coaching industry, or you're just getting started, or maybe you've been a coach for many years, or you've been an entrepreneur for many years. I believe it really takes something to share your work, right, and be an artist. I think coaching is is an art. It is another form of artistry. And to put your programs out there, to put yourself out there is vulnerable as fuck. Right? So, I want to just expose any negative stigmas that the world has about vulnerability and what leaders have about being vulnerable as well.
I love that. I love that. So that just like sparked a question in my mind, and like wanted me to segue into a deeper conversation. What do you think allows or breeds, for lack of a better word, the stigma around vulnerability, and how does it really become the better of us, in lack of better words, or maybe can I don't know why I want to use these type of words, but like fester inside of us? Like how does vulnerability, like the lack of vulnerability, really take the best of us and develop? How does that, where's the breeding ground for that?
Yeah. I think it stems from life experience and childhood for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I can speak from, my childhood, for example. I felt like I was an outsider for many years, and I was bullied in school and really felt like I didn't belong and so deeply wanted to belong. So I tried to be somebody else for many years. Like I tried to be really smart. I tried to be really funny. I tried to look cool. Like I tried to put on all these different masks on so that I could belong. And it really took me away from being myself, right? Or really getting an understanding of who I am. What are my values? What are my beliefs? What do I care about? Who do I want to date? Right. I remember like dating the most popular guy in school because it would actually protect me, right? Like because girls were really, really vicious at that time. Now I love women and I love sisterhood, but like it's taken me
Yeah.
a long time, a big journey to trust women, to be vulnerable in front of other women, because for many years I didn't trust them, right? So really, it's taken me a long journey to push past those limiting beliefs, create new stories, create new relationships, reveal myself, right? Reveal the impact, reveal when I'm hurting, reveal like what's really on my heart. And yeah, I think it stems from childhood, especially too. And I think going back to your question about what's the negative stigma about vulnerability, you know, it, I think a lot of us believe that vulnerability is a weakness, right?
Mm.
Vulnerability is a weakness in relationships, with friendships, in at work, right? In our career, right? Especially women who are entrepreneurs or women who are, like looking to, advance their career. Women have, especially women and men too, like have this fear around being vulnerable, because vulnerability has a stigma that when you're vulnerable, then people think differently of you or people name you as weak, right? And what I'm here to expose is that vulnerability is actually the most courageous thing that we can do, and it's such a gift, right? Being able to reveal who we are and who we're not.
Definitely. And I think that it's so powerful and important to say that like there was a paradigm, or there was a segment in our lives where, at least depending what age bracket you are at. I'm guessing you have a similar age bracket by the way you're speaking. I'm in my early 30s. I'm guessing you're like around there, too, right? Just by the way that you explained your dynamics, it sounds similar to like what I was growing up in. But I think depending on your age, if you're a little bit younger, it may not pertain to you. But like I don't want to say exclusively but there was a period of time where it was very commercial and industrial, the way our society is. And now we're slowly stepping away from that, and where human expression and emotion was viewed very weak. And now we're slowly seeing that human connection is one of the most powerful things, especially in like as entrepreneurs, like consumerism or connection or building networking as awareness or having kinship or safety. These are all very pertinent, important things when we're building human connection. And it's the vitality of our safety per se. So when speaking into that concept quickly, before we jump into the next part, where do you think that concept of like building that human connection may have been? Like, do you think vulnerability is related to like the stifling of human connection, or do you think it's a whole separate concept where vulnerability is just like an interpersonal kind of experience that we experience, or is it like a collective thing?
That's such a good question.
Yeah.
I believe that there is a collective stigma around vulnerability and revealing our hearts, right? Because I think deep down, we all want connection, no matter if you're an introvert, extrovert. We deeply, one of our needs is to belong, right? And, in order to belong somewhere, there's a level of vulnerability that we have to have, right? In social settings and, in our work by ourselves, right? And yeah, there is a collective trauma around,
Mhm.
human connection, right? Because, especially, now and what's going on right now in the world, right? Like we are, being forced in a way. I mean, I think even
Mhm.
though times are changing, to be 6 feet apart from each other, right? Like
Mhm.
to not be close to each other, to stay home,
Mhm.
to stay isolated,
Mhm.
right? And I think that impacts, our self-expression, that impacts, our ability to actually experience human connection. And I
Mhm.
think some of us also grow up in a place where we need to, I have to sneeze. Thank you.
Bless
Woo,
you.
thank
That's
you.
okay. Love it. I see
um,
something.
so I think that we live in a world where, we want to connect with others. And in order for us to connect, we either have to, put on a mask, right? Or, be somebody, or actually, what I want to do is create a world where we don't have to be anybody other than ourselves, right? We don't, what if we can connect with each other and belong in the same circles and feel a sense of belonging because you're simply being yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And
Yeah.
that takes a level of that takes community, and it
Yeah.
takes acceptance and permission, and your ability to actually be vulnerable about what you're most shameful about.
Yes,
Right.
this is exactly be vulnerable what you're most shameful about. It's really about the like I'm definitely not speaking on your behalf. I'm kind of adding in my perspective and my trajectory into it. But like as in my own individual self, like this is my autonomy, like it's my thoughts process on it. But I really feel like our vulnerability is really, especially how this summit is about women and diversity, but women as well, is that there's a lot of shame of just being a woman. There's a lot of shame of just being human or just being ourselves. And not just that aspect of it, but speaking onto what you said about if we were vulnerable about the thing we're most shameful about, so much would change in our heart because the things that we're shaming ourselves about is very much the same things that's making us human, that's making us part of the society, making us part of the overall like network or whatever the case we want to claim it to be. And that is also like self-isolation and self-detriment. That is actually the thing that really, I think what vulnerability and authenticity is really approaching is this concept of shame and alchemizing it into love. And shame is honestly, I'm not too sure the history. Maybe you have the words to articulate how shame came about in our society, in our world, and in the human behavior. But from my understanding, it's not a natural state that humans are supposed to be in. And it was kind of like detrimented on it. I don't know the total 499 about that philosophy, but I do know shame when we are inflicting it on ourselves is absolutely the discriminator from us connecting with other people. So I love that you touched upon that and you said I think it's just beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I think, there's so many different levels of shame and reactions of shame, right?
Yeah.
Shame could look like being defensive. Shame could look like, rescuing other people. Shame could look like victimizing, like shame could look like, isolation in many
Yeah.
ways, right? And, if we could, and it does kill connection, right? And it kills intimacy, right? When you have this level of shame in yourself, right? It's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to be intimate, right? I work
Mhm.
with many clients who, really desire deep levels of intimacy, and they carry around shame, right? And it can be really big or it can be really small, like shame of being too much,
Yeah.
shame of um not being enough, right? Like there's these
Mhm.
stories and these experiences of shame. And something
Yeah.
that Brene Brown said once, she said, shame cannot survive when it's spoken about. So if you put
Yeah.
shame in like a pot of vulnerability, it can't survive,
Yeah. I
right?
love
So
it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. I could sit in that little conversation with you for a bit. Okay. All right. So let's jump into the second part of this little segment we're having for the Wisdom Circle, the summit, and the diversity table, round table. All right. So as you guys know, the people who are listening in to the podcast as well as watching us either on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, and you get to see our lovely faces as we're talking. I've asked the women, I've sent them a list, like a long list of questions, and I've asked them to send me about between 3 or 5 questions. Lovely Veronica has sent me 3 questions, and I'm going to ask these questions to her. My job is not to interact or not to say anything. As you guys know, who are watching this on the YouTube or any visual, I'm very expressive. So I'm going to try not to be expressive. So I'm just going to hold space. Veronica, you're going to open heart. Just respond to it how you feel. This is supposed to emanate the kind of frequency and vibe that Veronica will be bringing to the roundtable and to the summit. So you get to tap in and feel the frequency and the energetics of the experience. And then after that, we'll tap into some fun things and we'll chat about that. Okay? Are you ready, Veronica?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I am not going to go in order. So what we're going to do is number 1 is, what is your relationship to diversity, and does it come into play with your coaching?
Yeah. So my relationship to diversity, so I am half German, Lithuanian, and Puerto Rican, and I currently live in Puerto Rico. And, I grew up in a very diverse neighborhood, grew up with Hispanics, Black people, white people, all types of people, Asian people. So I'm very, I was always used to being in diverse culture, and, that was very normal for me. And then actually as I started, deep going into my career, and especially diving into the coaching industry, I realized that there's not a lot of, diverse coaches. I mean, there is, right? But there's not a lot of diversity in the coaching industry, right? Or in the personal development realm. And, it's interesting, right? Because, just growing up, I grew up in a pretty, what would I don't want to say like core neighborhood, but it was just like, it was a like neighborhood where we didn't have a lot of money. Right. And, I think those kinds of programs or those kinds of experiences like personal development, growth, mindset, like they weren't really available. Right. So, I didn't know about them until, I started hanging out with different people or different kinds of people. Right. And I think it's my relationship to diversity has been, especially recently, I've been really owning, my Latina culture, especially moving to Puerto Rico, being here, I have been, like allowing myself to immerse myself in my culture that, because then I, as much as I hang out with all different types of people, I'm excited about impacting Puerto Rican women here in Puerto Rico. I'm excited to, really own my culture and reach women, from my lineage. Right. And also I think I'm here to like heal ancestral patterns and wounds. And how I bring that into my coaching is, I talk about, I create space for these kinds of conversations. I talk about, unconscious bias and, what are some unconscious bias that we have, especially when I facilitate groups, I facilitate experiences, and, and I have different experiences with all types of cultures and races. And, I think it's just important to be aware of these things and to talk about it and to also like welcome more people of color, into my space, right? And make it more of a safe space to, welcome diversity and to also be welcoming vulnerability when it comes to diversity.
Love it. Okay.
It's okay. You're allowed to say love it.
First, I love my reaction to it.
Yeah.
You have to be watching. People who are listening on the podcast, you have to be watching to see that reaction. So jump over to the video. All right. So, okay. So the second question is, okay. What is your deep, dark secret? If your audience knew, you would be shocked, but you want them to know regardless.
My deep, dark secret is that in the beginning of my career, I compared myself a lot to other coaches. And I think this path of authenticity and vulnerability is going to be something I'm always going to be walking down and always going to get initiated. Every time I do something new, every time I I'm talking about leadership, every time I talk about relationships, like I'm going to get initiated into, this next level of that topic or that field, right? And in the beginning of my career, I was really heavy into leadership. I mean, I am heavy into feminine leadership, but I compared myself to a lot of coaches, and I wanted to. I was afraid of being myself, and it reflected, who I was back in the day, back in junior high, right, when I was like trying to not get bullied. And I think that my deepest, darkest secret, and it's not really a secret anymore because I've shared it with people. I share it with my clients. But in the beginning of my career, I used to copy other coaches, and because I didn't think that what I had was enough. Like, I mean, not everything, but I remember it one time it was a really big deal, and it was a big initiation for me. It was such a big initiation. And it really, really taught me the power of vulnerability, the power of authenticity. And I had to be the most vulnerable, the most authentic, the most in integrity with the next steps. I had to have a lot of cleanup conversations and, really look at myself and be honest and be honest in my leadership, right? And that really, really taught me about the power of vulnerability and authenticity in leadership, right? And it really, really taught me the power of vulnerability like no other. And so what I want people to know is that if you are thinking of becoming an entrepreneur, or if you're scared of being yourself in your relationships, right? I want you to know that there's nothing better than being yourself. And what you already know, what you already have inside of you is perfect, right? Don't get lost in the sauce and try to compare yourself to other people and do what other people are doing. Do what feels right for you. Mm-hmm. Listen to yourself. Do something different, right? Like, show other people why you're different. Mm-hmm. And that was what I was afraid of stepping into back in the day when I first started. Like, I was afraid of actually sharing my theory, my beliefs, my values, right? Because I wanted to be liked versus actually wanting to be real. So my invitation for you is, don't make the same mistake that I did, trying to copy other people, or getting lost in the sauce in the social media marketing world, right? Looking at Instagram, getting lost in all this content that's constantly being posted, and maybe you think you have to follow a certain algorithm or follow the same template that other people are posting on their Instagrams or something like that. Write what's true to your heart and share from your life experience, from your journey, your truth, your vulnerability. And that is how you will attract the kind of clients that are going to want to work with you. And that's how you're going to attract the right relationship and be in the relationship that you want to be in, because you're being yourself.
Okay. Alrighty. So what is your dream for women in the coaching and mentorship world and industry?
My dream for women in the coaching industry is to express yourself. Radical self-expression. Express yourself, express your truth. Put yourself out there, show up, reveal your heart. Your story, your life experience is valuable. And I want all women to feel powerful in sharing, even their most shameful moments. Like I used to, when I quit my job in corporate and I got scared and I gave lap dances for money because I was like terrified and I didn't know like another way to make money yet. And like, I did that. And I had a lot of shame about doing that in the beginning. And then as I've gone through my own journey and ego deaths and, really like looking at my life and like really seeing and remembering that everything I've done in my life has been for a reason. And I'm here to, share that life experience and share what I've learned from it, what I've gotten from that journey and from that experience and what I did and why I did that. And, I'm here to share the real shit and to say the real thing. And even if it's like something that people might judge you for, people are going to judge you anyway. Right. So, I'd rather tell you like what I did in the past and what I learned from it than trying to act perfect or try to be someone, different because you think it's according to standard. Right. So what are your standards and your beliefs, and follow that.
Alrighty, so we are on to our last and final bit of this segment. And this is where we get into the fun things and we get to talk about music, hashtags, and prizes.
Yay.
So as you guys know, I've asked each of the women, in addition to the questions, to send me a song that emanates their theme song for their life or the moment that they're going through right now in their experiences. When I sent this request to Veronica, she gave me Sky's the Limit, Notorious B.I.G. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the song? And this song can be found on the Spotify playlist. So yeah, introduce the song, tell us more about the song, and let us know.
So I grew up on R&B and hip hop, and Biggie was a big part of my life. I grew up in New York, Brooklyn, and Long Island, and and when I hear Sky's the Limit, it makes me think back to all the hard shit that I've gone through and what I've done to overcome that and to create my own life, despite what people have told me, despite what my past experiences have happened or what past experiences happened. Like, I'm the creator of my life and the sky is the limit. And even if I was broke as fuck one day, like, I am the creator of my life and I can get out of it and I can do something about it and I can do something different. And I don't have to be a victim to my circumstances. The sky is the limit. So that's what I think about when I hear that song.
I love it. So juicy. And it's going to add such a good flavor in the playlist. So it's going to be really good. I love it. The dynamic is amazing. All right. So in addition to the song, I also asked the women to give me a hashtag that they're going to use for the contest. So if you guys don't know, that we are leading up to the event as well during the event. For the woman that shares Veronica's content out the most and tags diversity.roundtable, as well as Veronica's hashtag, which is vulnerable as fuck, and her Instagram, which she'll let us know in a minute. You are going to be tallied. You have to make sure you tag diversity at roundtable though, because it makes it easier for us to tally it up. And it's the woman that shares the most. She gets a chance to win an amazing gift. So before we jump into what this gift is, or this prize, I should say, Veronica's giving, do you want, well, it's obviously evident why it's Vulnerable as Fuck, that's the name of your company, but if you wanted to touch on a few more words about why that hashtag.
I think I picked that hashtag because it's, I think vulnerability is something that it brings up a lot of shame and fear. And I want to empower people to be vulnerable as fuck. Like, and you can be vulnerable and you can also be powerful at the same time.
Amazing. So guys, remember that every time you're using that hashtag, this is our motto. This is the entry point of you representing yourself even more, and you're stepping away from anything that may not be making you be vulnerable and being your authentic self. So,
and you want to use vulnerable AF.
AF, yeah. Make sure you have the AF part. Make sure, guys. So yeah, and then don't forget to also tag diversity at roundtable so we can tally it up. So it's going to be any posting leading up to the event and any posting within the event. And then we are going to let you guys know when we do the draw, or not the draw, when we do the actual final tallying. And then the person that shared the most is the winner. So what are they winning from you, Veronica?
So you are winning a couple of free guides, 6 questions to ask for deeper intimacy, my bad bitch ritual that you can listen to every day so you can feel like a bad bitch. And you also get access to my Daring as Fuck Summit for anybody who is interested in leadership, coaching, and you want to hear from 16 different experts as well. You get full access to that. And you get a free one-on-one call with me. So
wow, that's a lot. That is a lot. That is jam-packed. That's like a program itself you're basically giving them. That's amazing. So ladies, so women, you heard it here. You heard that. You already know that this summit is so abundant. The women are really giving away really amazing things and lots happening. And I want you guys really to tap in and get involved. Veronica's link for the summit is going to be above somewhere around here. So click on that and sign up for the summit if you haven't signed up already. And really come in to the space, to the summit with an open heart. Now you've got to know Veronica a little bit more. You know her story and what she's going to bring and her dynamics and her so authentic philosophies and her vulnerability of sharing the different aspects of herself. And she's going to go much more deeper inside the actual roundtable with this information. So you get to know her even deeper. And then you also get to sit at the table with these 33 other women and really get to know deeper them. And hopefully in return, deepen your relationship with yourself and different parts of yourself and how diversity in womanhood looks and how it makes a whole. And I really want you to step into that philosophy that even though there's a diversity among womanhood, it makes a whole, and those parts are us as well. And having that ignite something inside of you, whether it's through the way you coach, the way that you show up in business, the way you show up in your intimate life, the way you interact with yourself, the way you relate with other people, with women, with sisters. I wanted to ignite all parts of your life when you're coming into this summit and this roundtable and really bring that open heart and that experience into it. So Veronica, thank you so much for being here and being part of the summit and part of the roundtable. Let them know where they can find you, my love.
So yeah, I'm really active on social media. You can find me on Instagram at Veronica Kulinis, or you can also follow at Vulnerable AF if you want to keep up with upcoming workshops and events. I'm going to start leading, starting next week, a weekly Vulnerable AF series. So if you want to join that, it's going to be free. And you get to, experience what it's like being in a container with me and experience what my vulnerability dojos are like. And you can sign up for my newsletter as well. I post a lot. I write a lot of emails, so you can just keep up with content there.
So a lot of content to dip into then, essentially. Yeah. All right, lovelies. It was so nice chatting with you, Veronica. And thank you for all the listeners and everybody watching. Remember to go check us out on Instagram. Go check us out on Facebook. Sign up for the summit if you're not signed up already. If you're listening to us on the podcast, come see our lovely faces. If you're watching our lovely faces, go and listen to the transmission of the podcast because I'm telling you, it lands so differently. And you are going to pick up so many things. Listen to multiple times. Listen to all of us over again. The podcast is something magical about the way the words land. All right, lovelies. I will chat with you guys soon. And thank you for being in this space. And I'll see you guys at the summit.